Welcome to Women of Spirit. Welcome to a conversation that is happening in our living rooms. And the reason that we're doing it in the living room and not presentations, but a sisterhood having a conversation is because we all have had young people approaching us about being in the tradition and African traditions and seeing our aesthetic, seeing our lives through a vision that is ancestral, that goes back to our legacy of roots in West and Central Africa that have been forcibly distributed throughout the world. And the wonder is that we continue to honor those traditions because we understand them as the vision of freedom, the vision of our aesthetic, the vision of understanding who we are. So I'm Marta Moreno Vega. Welcome to Women of Spirit. And I'd like to introduce you to Miralda Simmons, my sister.
Marta, you didn't say much about yourself now. So we're going to have to go back to you later. My name is Miralda Simmons, and I am a priestess Shango in the Kumi tradition. What people see me as in the world is as an advocate. I'm a civil rights and human rights attorney. I work day and night for racial justice, particularly for people of African descent. And what spurs me, what has always spurred me to do this, is the love and teaching of my family and the fact of who we are and what we are about. And through my travels, I have found strength. I have found solace, and I have found inspiration and fortitude in practicing Yoruba traditions and worshiping my ancestors and knowing the strength of the Orishas are in me. I do this every day. And when people ask me, how can I do what I do? I say that I have the Orisha behind me and I have my ancestors with me. And they talk to me and guide me every day. And I'm passing it on. And who should I pass it on to? Gloria. Glo, go ahead.
Unmute yourself.
Okay. So, hello everyone. How y'all doing? It's so good to be in the Corazon connection with all of you. I have my tea here, and my cup says Magical Mamas. So I am dedicating this to all of the magical mamas here, to our spiritual magical mamas, and all the magical mamas of generations to come. So I am Gloria Rodriguez. I am a priestess of Oshun, and I am a Brooklyn-born Puerto Riqueña, cisgendered mujerista, right? And the way in which my ASHÉ, I mean, first of all, we all are born with ASHÉ, and our Ori, right, is our destiny in life. So the way in which my ASHÉ really lives in me and expresses through me, right, is through the work that I do as a professor of psychology at a community college, as the founding director of the Almas Women's Institute, which is an organization I founded 22 years ago for women, for personal and spiritual development and self-awareness, as a psychologist that is really rooted in a mujerista perspective, which really centers spirituality and culture within the framework of psychological wellness and wholeness in my relationships with people. Right? Within community, I am all about community, flowing with community, in community, and a part of community. And so ASHÉ for me is that flow. It's that flow of the divinity that lives within each and every one of us as women, that connects us to the past, that connects us to everyone that in generations to come. And to really recognize for me where that comes from, I remember spending lots and lots of time with my grandmother, right? and following her around the house and watching her, work her ASHÉ and work her magic and do her prayers and be in relationship with spirit on a daily. So it's a part of who I am. It's a part of what lives within me, right? And so that when people ask, oh, how can you be an academic? How can you be a professor and still be a priestess? Well, we take ourselves wherever we go, right? And this is who I am, and this is what drives the programs and everything that I do in my life. Thank you. So who am I passing it to now?
Maria.
Maria.
No te oigo.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maria Terrero. I am a performer of Afro-Dominican music. It's something I have been doing since 1987. I come from the Dominican Republic, and I came very young to the United States in my teens. And although it was very hard for me to leave my island at that age, I am very fortunate to have traveled out here because a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of not knowing about my true identity has come as a result of having lived in the melting pot that New York is. I happened to have run into Marta around 1985 that I was working at the Caribbean Cultural Center. And there I learned so many things about my culture that I truly didn't know. And, as time went on, I met many other people, musicians, healers, dancers, writers that were in the same, quest that I was. And I learned so many things about me that today I practice La 21 División tradition. And like Marta we were talking before coming to this conversation in the living room. So many things just have unfolded over the years that it's amazing. I am still the very same person that came here in when I was 15, and yet so much of open, and I changed the waters in my altar, and it's just part of my everyday life. I light a candle when I feel that I need clarity. I have a bóveda. There's so many things that I didn't grow up with that have become part of me. And oddly enough, I thank having migrated to the United States so that I could find myself. So who do I pass it on to?
Let's try Mayra.
Hola, buenas tardes. Aquí desde Puerto Rico. It's hot here. I'm very grateful to be in this conversation. Estoy de verdad bien feliz porque usualmente, and I'm going to be switching from English to Spanish, usualmente they call me in order to be just a writer. And when I try to explain that in my tradition, in the way in which I conceive the world, there is no specialization. Everything is organic. And therefore, because we believe this circle of connections between, because we believe in this, in the sacredness of interconnectivity with the past and with the future, with the things that you have not, that are not yet materialized, but that they're here now. In every step that you take, you get closer to that. And they asked me, well, why is it that you are a writer and a professor, and you believe in these things? And I always have to explain that it is part of an act of freedom, y realmente lo importante es, the importance is that it is really important for us to understand that we come from a place that have convinced us that we should not believe in what we believe, that we should not believe in what we believe, because that is la marca de el salvajismo. You know, if you believe in the things that you believe, if you believe in the African tradition, you are closer, and you're identifying as a savage, as a person that is on the other side of reason, you know, on the other side of literature, on the other side of a PhD. How come a person that believes in all these things is able to write a thesis, is able to write books, is able to teach in a university? We all believe that this comes from places of poverty, marginalization, witchcraft, etc., etc. Well, no. No. And every time that I step on a place, I come with my ancestors and I say what they have always told me. Mis mayores me han enseñado, ¿verdad? Que todos los días, and this is something I do every day, I say, o mi tuto, aguatuto, tuto laroya, tuto ache, tuto ri, tuto mo, tuto wo, bo, tuto, tuto egun, ¿verdad? My ancestors are with me. Tuto egungun. My ascended masters, teachers are with me. Tuto bog borisha. And all the forces of the nature are here with me. That's what ASHÉ is. So that's what I do. And then I start everything that I have to say, whether it is a theoretical presentation or a poetry reading or whatever, because they are here. I am here because of them. And that is the way in which I am honoring their knowledge and also making them visible, visibilizing, desocultar, visualizar y desinvisibilizar all the teachings and all the knowledge and all the incredibly wonderful tradition of the people that made me possible. So that's why I am a writer, intellectual, santera, whatever they want to call it, but everything connected. Después les leo un poema.
So we pass it on to Ana in Brazil, right? We went to New Mexico, in Puerto Rico, now we go to Brazil.
Hey. Here we go. My name is Ana Flávia Magalhães Pinto, or Iyá Dayo. Iyá. Iyá Dayo, as you may imagine, is my name in Candomblé, which means Iyá, the one that carries happiness. Even though I like to do several things and frequently at the same time, I feel very comfortable in saying that I'm a historian, because this occupation allows me to revisit the vestiges of what was lived by my ancestors in a broad sense. I'm sure that researching the past, writing history, and telling the history of Black people in the diaspora are ways to celebrate ASHÉ. the life force that move us and connect us despite so many interdictions. Since I was able to start walking through the American territory, the território americano, an expression I used to call Lélia Gonzalez, a black
Leila. Mhm.
intellectual from Brazil, to the conversation, né? Lélia is so much important to us.
Yes.
Anyway, throughout my journey, in various connections and this connection with my Black people from the past and the present, it was very good to feel and say, I believe in the gods of the diaspora. They are with me, they are with us. And I'm loving the opportunity to be here with you because this seems more like one of those territories of Exu Eleguara, space very useful for the best communication to happen, to start, and to continue. Tomorrow, the abolition of slavery in Brazil will be 133 years old. People call me a lot of to talk about stories that limit our existence to slavery. Now, so I made a choice to investigate the stories, the histories of Black freedom. It was the way I found to explain our humanity and the perversity of racism that curiously had its centrality denied by white elites in Brazil in other parts of America. And this conversation is just proof that this choice makes sense. All these possibilities for me are expressions of ASHÉ. So I would like to listen more than speech, and I say from the deep of my soul, thank you so much. Gracias, Adupé. Obrigada.
Gracias a ti. Gracias a ti. Manuela. Cool.
Hey,
Now I don't know who age is what, so we're just taking it.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm
You all have babies. Somebody's typing. If you could please stop typing. It sounds like typing. Please stop.
Yes. You
Thank
know,
you.
I could tell you how old I am, but I think I've added 10 years per child, and I have 4. So I think I'm pushing 80 at this point. First of all, what a blessing to be with this family of beautiful, powerful women. Like all of you in some capacity, I've seen you, I've worked with you, you've mentored or influenced me unbeknownst to you. So Marta, thank you so much for this opportunity. You know, I am an Afro-Dominican woman with Congo and West African roots. And I think what I would like to kind of reflect on with these powerful sisters is like how I understand the concept of mother, right? And motherhood has been really up for me. We had a beautiful Mother's Day weekend, you know, and I was thinking about how important mother energy has been in the context of the world that we live in. Mother is power. Mother's rooted in love. She's rooted in care and respect for human life. I'm here because of my mother and my grandmother, right? Mothers are almost the ones who go and fetch you. And so that's kind of how I feel about my African spiritual lineage. My ancestors went and fetched me from the Bronx, fetched me from a life where my mother and my dad were not practicing African-derived religions directly. She would, through, you know, holy water on my homework, and I'd get in trouble and I'd get mad at her, and I didn't know what that was with the plants. But my grandmothers had to come and fetch me, because the reality is our ancestors selected us. And so here, if I'm speaking to you today as a priestess of Shango in the Lukumi tradition vis-a-vis Cuba, if I'm speaking to you as an Intika Yayi of the Makisinsi Malongo or Palo Mayombe tradition from Cuba, originally the Congo, it's because our traditions claim the power of nature. Mother Nature is the vital law of nature. She is the vital force. So nature came to get me. She came to get all of us. Even when we were stolen from Africa and brought to this place that wants to convince us that we are here just as a source of labor, that we're a commodity, that our bodies are to make people and make work and money for others. That's the big lie. So Mother Nature came to fetch all of us. And so, like, who holds me down? For me, my greatest mother, Kalunga, holds me down. She is the mystery of the universe. She is the divine mother. She is the astros in the dark night. She's the water in the bottom of the ocean. She's the darkness that none of us can see. She's the abundance that keeps producing. She's complete all by herself. And so when I'm struggling with how do I navigate my life as a professional woman in all white spaces, largely in philanthropy, where folks took and extracted and sat on a ton of wealth and left the rest of us out from the work that we did. My job is to go and fetch that money and bring it back to community. It's to reclaim the abundance that is inherently ours. Is to reclaim our relationship to land and the fact that we can live with different kinds of values where there's enough for all of us. So that's where my Chango comes in. Fight for racial justice, speak truth to power, aguerrear cuando hay que hacerlo, porque there's people here who took more than they should have and are living and deriving benefit from our suffering. And so I feel like if my African spiritual legacy had not come to fetch me, I wouldn't have had any idea about what I'm supposed to be doing with my life or any kind of courage and clarity about which way to go. Whenever I lose my way, I come to my mothers, I come to my babas, I come to the Ifa, I come to the Nkisi, the Nkobo to design and give me guidance. I pray at my altar. I ask my grandmother to tell me in a dream. We have so much power and information at our fingertips. And I have to say, y'all, like, if I had not met women like you, who took a little bit of time to hold learning space, I may not have found what was always mine. Right? So thank you, Iyá, Marta, Gloria, Maria Terrero with Alves from my beautiful country, Sabine spinning beads with her, like, Vodun roots, like all of the diaspora came to fetch me. And I'm just so grateful to all of you. So with that, Iyá, I kick it back to you.
Well, I think you called up Sabine, so let's go to Sabine. Somebody is typing. I wish you would stop, please, because I hear it. So I'm sure everybody hears it. So please stop. Thank you. Sabine.
All right, greetings everyone. Oh my gosh, of course I'm following Manuela. We got that connection. So in my tradition from Haiti, honor and respect. I am Mambo Supuen Sabine Blazin, Omo Shango. Shango is representing tonight. But we're giving honor to our mothers, our Iyá Mis, from our ancestral mothers to biological mothers to community mothers. I give thanks to all my spiritual women elders that have guided me, seen and unseen, particularly my great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother, and my Iyá. I am a DJ, I'm a music producer and an event curator. I also coin myself as an artivist. I've been navigating scholarly worlds and bringing together art and activism. And I feel like at that intersection, there's that divine connection. Just like us women, we are not a monolith. So I wear many, many different hats, but it's all through the strength of Olodumare, Bonjour, my ancestors, spirit guides, Orishas, Waz, all them. So I was born and raised in the Bronx, big up the Bronx. I live in Brooklyn now, but my family, as I said, is from Haiti. And if we could stop typing, that would be great. Okay, awesome. So over the years, definitely through music and artistry, that's why I found my freedom and self-expression, and my ancestors were guiding me as well. Definitely came from a family where voodoo and these African spiritual practices were taboo, right? But in terms of my elders and my lineage, it's all interweaved in there, right? And various practices. Now that I have the sensibility as a priestess and a practitioner, I saw what my grandmother was doing. I saw what my elders were doing in my family. And definitely I am the chosen one in my family to continue this legacy and tradition. And I'm so proud and honored. I've come a long, long way to fight through familial, societal perspectives of who you need to be as a Black woman, especially with a strong Christian background. So everybody knows I'm unapologetically Haitian artist, Black woman in all these spaces, and I bring my whole self. And as I went through my own spirituality and finding myself as an artist, it went hand in hand. So my brand is called Oya Sound, and you already know Oya, Yoruba, Nigerian deity.
You and I.
Here to talk about mothers. So, you know, I give honor and give thanks to mothers in my work. And I want to particularly put a stamp within the electronic music scene and show the strength of Black women doing this work. So I've built that since 2006 till now. And it turned into a lifestyle brand, which is incorporates all of these different aspects of the work that I do. Also as an activist, a community organizer, I'm a director of leadership development at an organization called Ife Tayo, which in Yoruba means love is enough for joy. So when I say that things are in alignment, once I came to terms with who I am and followed my calling, opportunities and various aspects of myself presented itself. So in addition to that, you know, I really think about how I walk into spaces. I also think about Mother Earth, and I know we talked about Mother Nature as well, elements of nature. When we look at the pantheon of female African deities, they're at the core, right? And my Iyá taught me this, right? We represent birth, life, and death. So everything begins with us and ends with us. We're the closest to Olodumare and God, right? And just looking at the divine feminine principle, and just who we are, we're divine in our own right. So when we tap into that power, individually and collectively, is a great force, and we need to be honored. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much for having me in this platform, definitely bringing the element of arts to this space and cultural work, and Haiti, of course, and all of our traditions. So it's beautiful to see our Pan-Africanness in this space as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's move to Cuba. Yesenia. Dino algo.
To be honest, when I got this invitation, I just couldn't believe. I have to read a couple times because it's like to be invited into this club is like, I don't know, something that is beyond my dreams, to be honest. Especially because here there are two of my idols, you know? And one is Maria Santos Febres that I started reading in Cuba. And the second is Nata Moreno Vega, that I have the opportunity to meet in Cuba also in 2004 before I came to the US. And then, oh my God, Gloria is a person I've been following for so long. And I was so humble when she and Marta and Melody show up all together to see my play, Women Orishas. Was real name is Ayabas, the many faces of the queen. That's the name, but actually is Women Orishas. And when you three show up, it was like, I felt like I got crowned, by your presence. And then Manuela, I think when I arrived in the New York area, Manuela was working still with the Caribbean Cultural Center. So around 2004, 2005, Manuela, you were working with the Caribbean Cultural Center, right? Of course, her name started become really familiar to me because I was receiving all the information, all the events, and then she invited me into another very amazing club when she did a conference in CUNY about Congo tradition. And she invited me, as a dancer to talk about the Congo tradition from the dancing perspective, because I do have also a lot of hats. But I just recently, I kind of got to convey a better way to present myself. So there are the things I do. I am a dancer. I am a scholar. I am a performer. That I do all the stuff that are not necessarily dance, but experimental performance, public spaces interventions with the Orisha, women Orishas presence always. And then I am increasingly writing, and I'm a PhD student. It's not only that I am a scholar, I am also in the last, in the finish line, for the PhD. And I am a triplets mom. I have triplets that are 20 years old.
Wow.
They will be 21 because they were born with the 21st century. And then I have been one of the greatest thing that ever happened in my life was not the triplets. It was to meet my godfather, Victor Betancourt Estrada, in 1999. No, because it was a turning point for me. I was a dancer, I was an actress, but I was not a believer. No, I was not a believer. So Victor Betancourt was someone that, first of all, taught me to have faith. No, he taught me to have faith. And many people kind of freak out when I say I am not a priestess, I am not a santera, right? Because of all the things I do Orisha related. But from the first consulta that I have with my godfather, he told me, you don't need anything. With your Ori, you are gonna get anywhere in this world. Whatever you want, you're gonna get with this Ori. And this Ori that you have have something for us. Something for us that nobody else can create. So a divinity can give you what the Ori already has. And I don't know how long is it gonna take, for you to produce the thing. Maybe, I don't know, 90 years, who cares, But this is what Ifa says, Don't touch her Ori. We need that, no? So this was before I got my Mano de Orula. So I am an Apuete B. In the same year. I entered by chance just because my husband was studying drumming, And then we have to go through the ceremony, and then my godfather says, well, it doesn't matter if come once or 3 or 5, it's going to be around the same. So if somebody else wants to come, and so I enter, and one of my best friends did it too for free, because that's what he told me. It's like, if you want once, you have the money, nothing, it's not a problem for you. You can get the mano de orula, so we can find out, you know, a lot of things, a lot of advices, things that are going to be very helpful for you to take decisions in your life. But I think this is it now. And actually, the ceremony confirmed it, and it also was a confirmation that my protector is Iyá. So with time, I have become a medium as well. So I think like I have 2 sources of knowledge about the ancestral, and one is a gungun that are always with me and are always speaking to me, and sometimes it's kind of too much. Too much between Egun and the triplets is kind of crazy, right? And then I have the work of my godfather, because my sign in Ifa is Oyekun Otrupo, that is the speaker of Olofin. So as my temple, Ifaran Lowo in Havana, has been the pioneer of the public education, the public instruction of Ifa and La Santeria, creating several schools through years. I think the first one, a school of Santeros, you know, for people to get to know and to debate concepts. You know, how do we do, why we do an ebo, what we have to put into every fundamento, you know, like that type of things. And
Yesenia, we'll come to it a little more as we have a discussion.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you. So thank you all for this introduction.
That's in terms of presentation. So let's go into a conversation.
Yeah, let's go into a conversation, because I think that for me, right, in listening, right, the importance of family. And one of the fundamentos, ¿verdad, de esta tradición is that we created family when there was not supposed to be family. We were torn out of West and Central Africa without family. And we chose to recreate family. And we chose to recreate family because within the tradition, right, Iyá Mi means motherhood and means creating community, creating family. So we chose to create family wherever we were taken, right? So this concept of family, this concept of creating community, this concept of understanding, right, that there is something greater than us that we carry, because we came with nothing. We came with nothing. We had to create whatever that something was. And Maria referred to La Bóveda, right, the altar to the ancestors. We created altars in different ways. You go to Brazil, you go to Cuba, you go to Haiti, and altars persist, right? So what is these creations that we continue, right, to manifest through family? And the importance of family, because we have blood family, but we have, right, the family, my madrina used to say, de piedra. And because we chose that family, it's fundamental. It's even more important than blood family. So I'd like to go to Mayra and her poem, and then we continue that conversation of, you know, creating family and what that means. What are the ethics, the values that we bring?
Marta, can you listen to me? Sí,
Yeah.
me oigo.
Sí.
Es que yo tengo que hacer una pregunta, un cuento acerca de eso, y va a ser cortito y después leo el poema. But I started the path when my mother was dying. When I was 25, cuando yo tenía 25 años, I came back to Puerto Rico with a PhD. At 25 years old. I mean, I graduated and I had a PhD with 25 years old because I wanted to give that to my mother, who wanted to have a PhD, but she couldn't. I really want to be a writer, and that's it. But I came back with that PhD, and she started dying. So I went everywhere. And then I met my madrina. She died, Mercedes Rodriguez. Mercedes Enrique, sorry. And she said, you have to learn how to deal with death. Irete, Putan, Yana. And that was the first time that she told me the name of mi kofa, and then los collares and all that. And I entered this practice because I didn't know how to be without a mother. I didn't know who I was. She pushed me through a lot, and she gave me a lot of ona. She gave me camino. She gave me un camino, una manera de estar en la vida. So when I knew that she was going to die, I started. It was as if we had a transferal of mothers. And she went, and then I gained all these mothers came back, and I wanted to say that. And then I started writing, but I didn't know what I was writing. I started writing very young. When I was 19, I started publishing. I didn't know what I was writing. And then I figured out that all I was doing was talking. Everybody will tell me, you're writing things they're not going to go anywhere. Mayra, tienes que escribir como Rosarito Ferré, como Olga Noya, and you have to write, like all these people that have creolized. In Latin America have creolized the European way. And I couldn't. It's not that I didn't know how to. It's that I couldn't. And I think that was my mother's. So what I came to bring has to do with this idea of family, that it taught me that it goes beyond esto, our presence here and now. And I think that was the biggest strength of this aesthetics and ethics of family. We bring family wherever we go. We prove that we're human, and we prove that we cultivate humanness through building of family and community. But also we create families that through art, and all other people that work with art know that we become a family of conjurers, una familia of people that create ties with the word.
Well, this is why there's so much creative people in the panel, right? You can't get away from it. Dancers, writers, and lawyers are creators, right?
So this is it, and I'm gonna say this. It's en español. This is to my grandmother. Abuela, si tú fueras Iyalocha todavía, me dirías, hija de Yemayá, Carmen Salina, y yo te entendería.
Mayra, forgive me. Who is typing? Who is typing? We have said, please stop, and you're not stopping. So that is not only rude, disrespectful, right? Because if you're on this, it's because you want to learn. And being disrespectful is not learning. It's misbehaving. So please stop. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayra.
Okay. Abuela, si tú fueras Iyalocha todavía, me dirías, hija de Yemayá, carne salina, y yo te entendería. A pesar de personas planchaditas que me dicen enfermedad vernácula, anécdota de tierra, mito hueco para algunos antropólogos. Zambúllete en el mainstream minoritario, lee a Safo. Yo la leo, abuela, pero Iyá Mi me sigue reclamando con la mano llena de caracoles sabios, diamantes y machetes para cuando la lucha recia. Yo soy sal, abuela. Sal negra que entiende a Safo desde el sabor del hueso propio. Y no tengo intención de plancharme ni una greña más. So for me, this is Iyá Mi, and this is family.
Well, I remember my grandmother, right? era espiritista, born in Loíza. And when I was growing up in East Harlem, I was born in East Harlem, grew up in East Harlem. Part of everyday life was having smoke, a cigar smoke blown on me, agua florida, and cuando uno tenía que hacer una limpieza, right? Roque Saragüey, todas las plantas. And it was always like, shh, don't tell anybody. Shh, this is in the house, don't tell anybody, right? So it was always that question mark, why can't I tell? And I didn't, because my grandmother and my mother said, you don't tell, right? And at a point when I was doing my studies, right? Like all of us are doing studies and delving into the history of Puerto Rico and the colonization of Puerto Rico, delving into Africa and the traditions of Africa, right? You can't help but understand the colonization of the Spaniards and Portuguese of Africa, right? And that process of giving permission to enslave us, right? Because many people forget, because we're being brought up and miseducated in the US context, that the people who started the process, at least in for us, were the Spaniards and Portuguese. And part of that process was the forced acceptance, whether you knew the language or not, of Catholicism, right, of the Christian religion. And I understood almost immediately, right? My mother said, and my grandmother said, shh. But I also understood that if I wanted to have children, I didn't want them to be born with original sin. And that concept that enslaves. So that, to me, when, creating the Caribbean Cultural Center, el fundamento is ASHÉ. The fundamento is ASHÉ. And that's why we were able to connect with so many people from so many places, because people connected automatically, came looking, right, to connect, because they were already connected in their spaces and wanted to connect across spaces. So that what I'm hearing all of us speak is basically the same thing, that the ASHÉ has allowed us to connect in spaces that we would normally not connect or normally not go into. But because of our ASHÉ, we feel comfortable in whatever space we go into, be it Santo Domingo, be it Puerto Rico, be it, right? Because of that, we don't put a barrier. It opens doors for us, right? So that is, I think, a very powerful, powerful reality. Yesenia, sí, please. No te oigo. You're
No,
mute.
What I
Okay.
wanted to say about ASHÉ, and the way I don't know. First of all, I do think that these practices brought us, or allowed us, it's not a brought, it's allowed us to have an alternative mirror, for our identities. So I do believe that most Latin American slaves, they were enslaved, but they were not slaves, because if you are a daughter of Shango, or a daughter of Iyá, or a daughter of Elewa, you are a daughter of the Odisha, Mm-hmm. You are connected to them, and they're always protecting you, and there is always a possibility, like the oracles we have always give us how to take a step forward, into our mission. So I think this is very important, and this is what I'm saying, is that actually our practices have a different epistemology, right? Mm-hmm. A different epistemology, something that allowed us to think ourselves very different. So it doesn't matter that the colonial authority says that I am nothing, because I know who I am. I like people in my land know who I am, and they value me, and I have a space in that family. So I do think that's a game changer, that's a game changer completely in the way that many people have seen our tradition before. And then in terms of the ASHÉ, at least the way, again, it's like I've been the editor of the work of Victor for all these years. So all that I do is working through his ideas. I'm working through his ideas. My aesthetic production, all of that is involved with his ideas. But what I do understand, the understanding he has about ASHÉ is the power of realization, no? Because even the Odisha means it's a combined word that means Ori and ASHÉ, no? So Ori, la cabeza interna, es una manera de representar la identidad. And then we have ASHÉ. So what are the Orishas? The Orishas are the selected heads. They're like the unique people. They are like our ancestors that were able to transform their communities. That's what our ancestors represent. And then when we are able to take a step and fulfill our mission, this is a manifestation of the personal ASHÉ and also of the deities, that allowed you, that make possible, that want us to keep moving forward. So I don't know. I just wanted to put it out.
That's very important, because like the reality is, and I think that in Brazil, right, and Anna may want to address that, they can trace the women who created the candombles, the first candomble, Casablanca. La? And that was a recreation of our people, a choice of our people coming into a land that they did not know they were forcibly brought to, right? And yet create our beliefs. And that's what we, continue to inherit as we move forward. So that I think is critical. Ana, you want to address that in terms of sort of the history of candomblé and that creation?
It's important to speak about how families in candomblé made ways of freedom in Brazil and in other parts of the world. Actually, when we talk about Orisha's traditions in different parts. And even in the case when we recognize case of the enslavement inside the candomblé is different of white and capitalist way to keep people in slavery. So it's important to us, especially understand how not only Catholic associations, brotherhoods, were important to improve sociabilities, networks in defense of dignity, citizenship. But it's important also, we are talking about this in my class, this semester, how is important to recognize how candomblé of different nations, they were important in Brazil to create sense of freedom and keep the technologies of life despite of the violence. So in terreiros, in the house of candomblé, we developed, we created meanings of territoriality, education, health, and how can I say? Sometimes I speak so much Portuguese only this year, so the words sometimes
We'll say
like
them in Portuguese.
I can speak in Portuguese as
Yes,
well.
you can.
So let's go.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you can.
Hablamos portañol, you know.
Yeah. When I say I can believe, I do believe in God of diaspora is because the possibility of speak English today is a kind of gift I received of Orishas in my past, because it was Black people in diaspora who um, had taught me to speak a little bit, even Spanish, even Portuguese. So if English is better, I'm gonna try, because it's our language as well. Because if we create a new word, an American territories in United States, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Argentina, Brazil, is because not only the land we share with the originals people of this land, but we are on of the language, the culture, the history, and we everything is our is mine, is yours. So when I'm trying to say that in Candomblé, we can see how, despite of so many attempts of deny our possibilities of to be a human being, Candomblé prove that in Brazil, especially when I'm inside the Casa Branca terreiro, I can see, despite of the little size of the house, a big history could be right and lived. It's for me is important, because when I go to United States and inside of the house of my friends, I can meet myself in Santeria traditions, Lukumi traditions, and Ifa traditions. It's because they are very similar, if not the same experience was lived in diaspora. That is why I can being here with you in this moment. And in Brazil, we have other experience of African traditions, né, of religions, like Umbanda, Kimbanda, and some of them was received a negative mark. But this moment, we are trying to put out this prejudice and explain how this different ways were forms ought to be alive and create and keep Brazil the biggest Black nation outside Africa in the world. If
Well,
I can,
that becomes very important, because when we did the conference in Nigeria in Ife, and then we did the conference in Brazil, one of the things that is very clear is that communities were torn out of West Africa and taken to Brazil. So vamos a decir, the secrets of Ochosi, the hunter, are in Brazil. They're not in West Africa. So the work that we have to do is major. Is major because we're assuming that the tradition is whole in West Africa. And one of the things we found out is in doing the conference when we did in Brazil was that Brazil had populations that were practicing traditions that no longer existed in West Africa. And that work has to be done. That work still has to be done, you know, so that the work that you're doing at the university, as well as Mayra with the new project that's being developed and other sort of diaspora projects that are looking at archives, have to begin to look at the populations that were torn out of West Africa. Whole communities were torn out. So that if we go to Haiti, if we go to Trinidad, if we go to different places, we're going to find knowledge that still exists, right? Mm-hmm. That we can trace, but we don't have, I think until now, that we're creating those spaces and those institutions to do that work. That work has to be done before so many of the elders and the memory leaves. But our the power of, if you want to say 15 million people that were torn out of West Africa, and enslavement ends in Brazil, right? 1888, Cuba, 1880, Puerto Rico, 1873. That memory is still there. That memory is still there. And we have to do the work in capturing that memory and making sure that we continue to not only preserve it, but make it operationalized in a way that we understand what it is and how it functions.
Yeah, when I think of Brazil, I always think of the quilombos and just thinking about Haiti and how we maintain these family and community traditions, not only in the retention of, you know, our African spirituality and creating an amalgamation of various tribal traditions, which is the essence of voodoo, but also in our physical spaces, we recreated that African ecosystem, and they're called lacus, right? So when you go to different parts of Haiti, there's various lacus that represents particular nations or nations and tribes from Nago, Congo, Dahomey, and those traditions are very, very much alive. And it speaks to how despite colonialism from the French, from the Spanish, we were able, of course, as the first Black independent nation, right, be the inspiration and the catalyst for revolutions around the diaspora, but to be able to still retain not only this rites of passage or spiritual practice, but also physically how we manifested that space, which has always come under threat. Right? To be a voodooism, to hold these spaces is always under attack, whether it's spiritually or even physically or economically. But those spaces we've definitely created and maintained through our spiritual practices. So it's very important.
I wanted to just add a little bit here, Sabine, because it totally resonates with me. Like for the younger women or folks listening in the audience, you know, when I got to thinking, why are our indigenous traditions such a threat to people? Why am I being asked to keep it in hiding? I had to really, you know, interrogate that. The first line of hiding was my mother, hiding it from my father. So when she would go see her cabeza de misterio in the 21 divisions and the things that Belkis or Papa Candelo would tell her to do, and she would do it in secret and only share it with my older sister and not share it with me or my other sisters and hide it from my father, there was some level of self-protection that she was trying to do. But when we put it on a macro level, it's a, you know, I have to always interrogate, why does me standing in my power in connection to nature threaten to the contemporary society? And it's because of the values of collectivity, true good government, right? The Mbongi and Congo tradition means the people tell the president what to do, and he must listen. And that is the people and the elders and the good government who will hold you into accountability if you stray off path, right? So that we have relationships that are connected to spirit and to social organization. And I think that is a complete threat to the society that we live in, especially a Black woman's power, who is generally pushed into the bottom of the totem pole. But we know that she's the source of creation of everything that's really producing for society. Think about the essential workers right now. If it hadn't been for them, where would any of us be? If it hadn't been for the child care workers, for the mothers who were working and mothering, like none of the billions and trillions made on Wall Street would have been possible. And all the expansion in resources that we've seen from corporations, literally is because of us and the work that we've been doing. And so our traditions present a direct threat to that type of extractive social organization. And, you know, initially when I was first starting in the tradition and I would hide my beads, I was a Iyawo. My first job in philanthropy, I had to cover my head. People are like, what are you wearing all those things for? What does it mean? I was given advice about what to say, not to say. You know, it was all about trying to erase us and ingrain in us this idea that there's something wrong with who we inherently are. And you have to do so much work to undo that erasure and that's violence, because believe it or not, that white supremacy is inside and everywhere. It takes so much work to really make sure we're clear that we don't deserve that treatment, that is not who we are, that we're bigger and we're deeper than that. So I just kind of want to riff with you on that, Sabine, a little bit, because the work is ongoing, and getting enmeshed in our traditional religions is the first, I believe, the first step to our personal liberation as people of African descent.
Ashe, I don't want to maximize the time, but that also reminds me that it's very essential as priestess, as practitioners, that we intentionally create the collectives and hold space for each other. Because a lot of times when we do this work, we need that level of self-care and that motivation. And also, you know, intentionally infiltrate a lot of these spaces that we're taught to not go in. And when I hear about everyone's background, their PhDs, the work you do in community, like we're doing that work, right? And it's important to continue to lift us up. So I want to just mention that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and just kind of piggyback on what Sabine is talking about in terms of being able to kind of create community in an everyday practice, right? So for those of us that are practitioners of African based traditions, it's not just in the Ocha room, right? It's not just in ceremony. It's not just in these kinds of religious contexts, but they are lived within ourselves, and these values of community and connectivity and the sacredness that exists within each of us, right? That we don't have to be initiates in order to be sons and daughters of Odisha, that we all are sons and daughters of Odisha, right? And for me, during this pandemic, right, creating community through De Corazon Connection, right? This program that I developed called De Corazon Connection, which was a call to women, right? To come together every morning and to meditate and to pray and to support each other and to stay connected, to call in our ancestors, to call in our spirit guides and protectors, to call in nature, to call in the ASHÉ that we all bring into community, right? And so to develop that kind of connection, and it was really interesting because initially it started off as a sort of an East Coast thing, and then it became national. Then it became folks from women from the Caribbean calling in. Then it became women from Europe calling in. Then it was so amazing. I was completely amazed. I was completely like blown away. I was just like, this is this is the practice of our tradition. It is about creating community. It's about supporting each other. It's about mothering each other. It's about loving on each other. It's about taking care of each other, right? In a way that is so critical, so that we can move through these challenges, with a sense of, freedom and liberation and resilience and strength. Yes. And so in our everyday practice, to really understand that Odisha is a healing energy, right? It's a healing energy as well, particularly when we talk about the divine feminine energies of Odisha. And I want to speak a little bit about that, because on a personal level, I think when I say, we are all sons and daughters of Odisha, that's consciously and unconsciously, because I can remember reading Baba Willie Ramos's book, Oshun Across the Waters, and opening to my road of Oshun, which is Ololodi, which is the revolutionary Oshun, right? It is the activist Oshun. There are so many ways in which Odisha is also very pigeonholed, stereotyped, and it's like, and so when I read it, I started to cry when I read the description of my a road of Oshun, right? Because what I realized was that throughout my entire life, the ASHÉ of Oshun was with me, guiding me, moving through me, expressing as me from the moment I joined the Young Lords, right? A revolutionary organization, right? To losing, losing a child, right? And not allowing for that healing to happen, right? Because I was involved in a militant political organization out in the street, doing, lost a baby. And it took years later when I was in the workshop, and it started, all of that started to, like, sort of like as a volcano, erupt from within me, that I needed the healing. And so what I heard and what I was privileged to do was to go to a river. And I literally heard the direction: jump in the river, right? Allow the river to take you to its final destination. Come back up the hill, jump in. I heard this direction and this guidance 3 times. I jumped in that river, and I just allowed myself to be bathed in the healing energy of Oshun. I had no idea what that was on a conscious level. But as in retrospect, I'm like, whoa, Oshun has always been my mother. She has always been the healing mother. And I think that, when we talk about Odisha, oftentimes we talk about Odisha as if it is Odisha just lives in our pots, right? And not that, as you were saying before, that Odisha is nature. It is the sacredness of all life itself. And so for us, I mean, and I would say that for listening to this, because I think that when young people are interested in the tradition, particularly in the Odisha tradition, there's almost this idea that they have to be initiated, right, in order to be connected to Odisha in some way, shape, or form. And I think that for those of us that understand that if you go to the natural Ile, the natural home where Odisha resides, that connection is just as critical and just as important for our well-being, right? So,
as Yesenia said, and that's how Elpidio Cárdenas, Teresa, my godfather, and my godmother, Zenaida Rodriguez, would say, we're born with Odisha. We're born with the sacred. We're born with ASHÉ, right? And what ritual does, what ancestral worship does, what the practice does is open up more possibilities. But you're born sacred. you know, and that I think to me was critical in terms of embracing this tradition, because when I had my baby, when I had Sergio, I was like, he cannot be born with original sin. How is that possible? Such a concept to be put on my child, right? So that was the determining factor. Like, my child is sacred, is precious, and nothing can change that. And any concept that changes that is because it wants to enslave, right? And imprison my child, right? And imprison the family. So I think that we have to look at the liberatory, is that a word? Liberation factors that we present, right? In terms of these traditions, because you're sacred from birth.
That's it.
You're sacred from birth. You're not wiping out any sin that you didn't commit. You know what I'm saying? To put it, you know, clearly. So, you know, there is a theory, a philosophy, a perspective that the tradition brings, and it's constant everywhere. Everywhere that I've traveled and done any kind of study and made any kind of connections, we are born sacred. That is central to who we are, what we've become, right?
Yeah.
María, ¿tú querías decir algo? ¿Me
I'm
oye?
sorry that, yes, I'm sorry that I don't know what happened with the technology, and I kind of like disappeared, but I'm back. Um, um, I think what makes it so hard is that the systems in place within the social system are so powerful in not um, in not allowing us to be in touch with what we are born with. Um, it's amazing that when I came here, when I was a young girl, I mean a young teenager, and came here, this is where I learned, or I started to learn what identity is. I I didn't have a concept. I knew I was India because they call me India in my country. They don't call me black. Um, I I didn't know anything about my Haitians brothers or sisters. I had to come here to the United States to learn about us, and also, you know, I was also part of the social justice movement since very young, and it's amazing how through that I came to the the musical and the dance expressions of traditions that were hidden from my view. I didn't really see them. I had to come to New York and learn what Gaga was, what Palo was, what Congo del Espíritu Santo is, and it's amazing. Like you see videos in YouTube, for example, of the children in Villamella, to the north of the capital, in Santo Domingo, and these kids they grow up singing their traditions. They grow up dancing their traditions, playing, building instruments. But for the people, you know, things have changed. There has been a big movement, and you know, a lot has come to light, and there are many projects taking place in the Dominican Republic and in New York City, to bring light to this. But when I was growing up in the capital, I had no idea that any of that happened. And you know, in a predominantly black country, I had no idea that I'm being black or not being black was a question. When I came here and I, I met the African American sisters, and their hair natural, and I learned about Brazilian dance and Haitian dance, and that's how the idea of identity. So imagine young people still grow in our beautiful countries without sense of identity, and that's why the work that that can be done in the communities here, there's great work going on in the Dominican Republic. Today, still today, little girls in Santo Domingo turned away from school if they wear their hair natural today. That still happens. You are rejected from certain positions if you wear your hair natural. So a lot of work has been done. We have come a long way, but there is so much to do, and the system is very powerful. It's very powerful. Yeah, we were colonized with the idea of Christ, and the Catholic Church, but now it's not only the Catholic Church. Now it's the evangelicals. It's heartbreaking to see what is happening, and at the same time, I must celebrate the work that there are institutions, and there have been a lot of scholars digging out the truth of our essence, but there is still a lot of work to do.
There is. I don't know if Esmeralda's on because she keeps getting disconnected. Is she on? Hi, Esmeralda.
I'm on now. Thank you. I have to speak quickly before I get bounced off again. Technology is here and there. It's up and down. But sisters, I just wanted to emphasize the fact that and celebrate all of you, because all of you are practicing your culture and your spirituality in the world. We are in the world. We are making change. We are making social justice. We are forcing people to recognize who we are with our ASHÉ and making change for our people and actually for the entire planet. We are in concert with the environment. We are not working against it. We're trying to save our planet. We're trying to save our people. We're trying to save our people from simple things that we think are normal, so that we can have health, we can have education. We don't have to be burdened with police brutality. All of those things we are doing as activists, as warrior women, as spiritual women, as women practicing African tradition. It is what fires us up. What else would I say as Omoshango? It's what fires us up. It's what keeps us going. It's what the core that they cannot distinguish. They tried to extinguish it. They tried to beat it down. They cannot beat it down. It is in us. It is us. And I am so grateful that I came to know so much. And of course, there's always so much more to learn, to know so much about my heritage, about our heritage, through dance, through political education. Just because you can't talk about, if you didn't come from Europe, where did you come from? What were your traditions? And what part of those traditions do you want to keep? And what part do you want to throw in a garbage can? So I'm saying that As we grow spiritually, as we practice, and I acknowledge each of you, as we practice, as we learn the power of our spiritual practices, as we learn the power of being African, that we learn, we also acknowledge that that is the fuel that allows us to be liberators of ourselves.
If I can ask each one of us to say one word in closing, and I would like to say, Ezomo Obatala, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for answering the call, and we will continue these conversations, hopefully. I am so blessed to have you all in my life and have experienced you in my life, so thank you. So let's go with the squares. Gloria, Manuela, Yesenia, and then we go.
So it has been such an honor and a joy to share space with all of you across the waters in our sacred environment. So I am so grateful. I am so full of joy. Thank you so much. And I think that one of the things that I would like to kind of consider all of us here and other women that are, doing the work is that we are spiritual midwives. We are birthing a new society that is about justice, about equity, and we're doing it from the heart, and we're leading from love as a liberatory right force. So thank you all.
Thank you, Manuela.
It's also deep gratitude, Sistren. I just want to wish you all immense peace, fire and resistance, a refusal of anything that chooses to diminish us, dignity and love, healing, 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 healing for all of us, for our people. Ashe.
Ashe.
Yesenia?
Well, uses one word, so my word is sisterhood, certainly, no? And I feel like each one of us, we have our responsibilities, we have our places, we have the particular communities that we bring together. But we are an answer, to that question, no? Because there is no limits, there is no limit for our practitioners. There is no limit, the sky is the limit for every single one of you. And this is a power, an ASHÉ, that certainly our tradition has allowed us to experience, and also bringing us together. This was such a wonderful thing, Marta. Thank you so much, and thank you, every single one of you, for your presence and your words.
Sabine?
Yes, I just want to give thanks to you, Martha, and just everyone here.
All of us.
This was amazing, amazing, and a great reminder as we all do this work. My word is potomita. So in our voodoo tradition, that is the pole, the center of our peristyle, our sacred temple. It's a connection between heaven, Orun, Guinea, and the earth. And I feel like as women, Iyás, Iyámis are that potomita. And I just want to say Ayi Bobo, Amen, Ashe. And thank you once again. This was beautiful.
Thank you. Anna?
Well, in the Black woman movement, an activist named Vilma Reis created a phrase that we use a lot. Viva nós e as águas. Cheers the waters, cheers us and to the waters. And the waters which not only separated us, but connected us in the past, in the present, and will be connecting again and again in the future. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you. I really, really, really intend to see you face to face, hand
Yes,
to
we
hand,
will. We will.
tocando, heart to heart.
We will. We will. You
So,
all have to come to Loisa.
thank
So we
you.
will make it happen when the doors open and flying happens. Or we'll use our brooms. Later.
Bueno, la única palabra, the word that I want to say, of course, is frescura, omituto. Omituto. We are in a moment in which we need clarity, but we always need frescura, to be fresh. These are very trying times, and this connection has always have refreshed me, because as we know in our tradition, everything that is made in anxiety turns out bad. That's where that's where the unbalance comes from, and we have lived with a lot of unbalance lately. But slowly, I think that this is starting to create. I can see balance starting to sprout. So let's keep watering that balance, and let's keep trying to live in balance and in freshness. No me quito. Gracias, hermana. La siento con el corazón. Muchas gracias. Nos vamos a ver en Loíza.
Seguro que sí.
En Loíza, nos vamos a ver. Thank you, and thank you, Sabine, and thank you for creating this incredible space from Haiti, because I know that the Caribbean was born in Haiti, and we have so much to do in order to recognize that. So I want to know more. I want to keep in contact. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you. Maria, you want to say a final word?
Yes, I want to say gracias a la misericordia. That's the way we salute our misterios en la 21 División. I want to thank you, Marta, for creating this space, and I definitely am looking forward to continue growing and moving it forward. The ASHÉ.
Esmeralda, my sister from another mother.
Yes, exactly. One word before I'm bounced off. Ashe, ashe, ashe. The power is us, and we are the power. And we will be eternally grateful to be on the planet as we are in order to provide our power and our spirit. Thank you. We are the manifestations.
Absolutely. Iyá Mi, thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for answering the call.
Thank you.
Asheo.
Ashe, ashe.